The tyranny never ends in Leon Valley. The police will tow your own car from your own home on your own property in the middle of the night just because your registration was out of date. In this video, Councilman Will Bradshaw reveals how Police Chief Joe Savagio lies and manipulates in order to continue breaking state law to raise revenue for the city government. The Leon Valley Police and Code Enforcement roam the streets looking for vehicles they can seize in order to make a quick buck. According to this report, in just the last half of July, they found 15 what they call junked or abandoned vehicles. In reality, it just means the registration is out of date. Yes, even right now when Governor Abbott suspended so many things. 15 vehicles they found a tag and possibly seize. Seizing vehicles is big business for municipal bureaucrats and tyrants. For example, in December 2019, the Impound lot brought in over $10,000 worth of fees alone. And in the auction held in January of this year, 36 vehicles were sold off, auctioned to the highest bidder. But what did those 36 vehicles bring? About $40,000. That means that's enough for another staffer at the city in just one auction. But for the 36 families who lost a vehicle valued at only about $1,000 that they couldn't afford to take back out of that lot, that's absolutely devastating to those people who were targeted by Savagio's political establishment just to earn that quick buck. And when people were out filming the Leon Valley city government in 2018, after they were arrested, the police would take their keys and roam around and drive around town until they found their cars out of parking lots, impounding those vehicles and charging hundreds and hundreds of dollars. One individual even lost his vehicle because of this. Why do all this? Besides hurting people who they don't like, it means more toys for the police department and more salaries for friends and bad cops. The city ordinance is completely illegal, as Councilman Will Bradshaw explains in the video you're about to see. And how can the city government do that? After all, it's illegal. How are they doing this? Well, they just did. And it's not like they don't know about it. The council specifically voted to keep the illegal law in place. The Leon Valley City Council is meeting on Tuesday evening. The first item on the agenda is whether to investigate Police Chief Salvaggio and the city manager for corruption and official oppression. You're not going to want to miss that one. I'll be covering it live on my other channel, Justin Pulliam Live, starting at 5:15 Central Time. See you there. Enjoy the rest of the video, and thanks for watching. Always film the police.
It's an allegation that Chief Salvaggio made against me that I'm harassing him and causing a hostile work environment.
How did you harass him? Ask him questions?
Hello, citizens of Leon Valley throughout the country and the world. Thank you for tuning in. This is another video about the corruption and power struggle that's going on in our city of Leon Valley. One of the things that happened a lot when I was out campaigning, once I decided to run for city council, I would go around and knock on people's door, go door to door, and I would ask them, what do you want from the city? What is it that you need? What do you like? What would you like to change? And surprisingly, many people told me that they had had vehicles towed out of their own driveway in the middle of the night or off of their property in front of their house. 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, tow truck shows up, takes their vehicle, and they call the police, say, my car was stolen. They find out, oh no, we impounded your vehicle. Why? Because you had expired registration stickers. I just thought that was unbelievable when I heard that. So I made note of it, and I actually heard, from half a dozen people at least that this had happened to. And so when I got on the council, when I was elected in May, I remembered to bring this up, and actually it was kind of funny thing. It came up at my very first city council meeting. So if I can share here, like I said, ended up in May winning my election. Thank you. Thank you for all those who supported me, and those who haven't, I hope you reconsider next time. But this presentation is about how Chief Salvaggio lied and intentionally misled the city council about junk vehicles and what that means. During the May 21st, 2019 city council meeting, again, this is my very first meeting where I was sworn in as a city councilor, Chief Salvaggio gave a presentation on impounding vehicles for expired registration stickers. That's what it's called. You can look up the video if you want on Leon Valley website. Savagio intentionally changed the Texas Transportation Code to make it appear that it is the exact same as the Leon Valley Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, Section 808. I'll show you some of those slides that he put together during his presentation. This is one of his slides. As you can see, he says laws and ordinances, Texas Transportation Code 683071. And he says in this subchapter, junk vehicle means, you know, and he has it highlighted, junked vehicle, A, you know, look at this, B1A, BC, has it numbered, lettered, everything. This says Texas Transportation Code. And then the next slide is Leon Valley Code of Ordinances, 80801, B1A. It's the exact same slide. I'll go back. They're the exact same numbering, everything. Oops. Except for that one is the Texas Transportation Code and one is Leon Valley Code of Ordinances. And he tried to say that they are exactly the same, even going so far as to put a slide, and he says, here they are side by side. You can see they're exactly the same. And his intention in doing this is telling the council that there's nothing we can do to change it. It is what it is. You can't change it. If you want to change it, you need to contact. He put this is another slide. You can see this is from the presentation for impounding registrations with registration stickers. You can contact the governor or your state senator or state representative. That's what his answer was to the council. End of story. Sorry, there's nothing you can do. This is state law. We're just enforcing state law, which raises the question, how come San Antonio is not towing vehicles for expired registrations? How come other cities aren't doing that? So just to show you kind of what I'm saying, let me show you what the chief said during that presentation.
When it was towed from the street. So our citizen asked that the council consider removing the expired registration from the definition of junk and abandoned vehicles. So this presentation is specifically about whether the registration can be, if there's anything we can do at our level in this local municipality to take that out or change it. And that's the focus of this. So I hit more than one. Okay. What's it doing here? So our law, when you pull up the Texas Transportation Code, it has the same thing that we have in ours, and you'll notice, and I'll put them side by side in a second, that it's word for word. So whoever created this ordinance back when it was first created defined a junk vehicle as a motor vehicle, aircraft, or watercraft. The subchapter applies only to, and there was a motor vehicle that displays an expired license plate or does not display a license plate. There are other things, but since this is what we were asked to look at today, I didn't go into any other stuff except the definition and it's being in state law. So as you can see, ours is exactly the same. We just some point along the way we adopted the state law into our ordinances and then actually made it a little bit more on other things, a little bit more stringent than state law, which whenever it occurred, the city has the right to do that. We can't make it less stringent. So as you can see in ours, it's the exact same thing. Motor vehicle displays fire.
So as you saw, he said they're exactly the same, word for word. He said, there's nothing we can do to change it. We can make it more stringent, but we can't make it less stringent. And he says that the state law requires that if it's expired registration, sorry, it's a junk vehicle. So I took a few weeks after that, before the next council meeting, I did some research and showed that the Texas Transportation Law and Leon Valley Code of Ordinances were indeed different. And I made a motion to change our law to match Texas state law. After all, that's what the chief said. They match exactly the same. So I said, okay, then if they're exactly the same, let's make them match exactly the same. And the motion failed 3-2 with Councilor Alcacer, Councilor Charles, and Catherine Rodriguez all voting to continue to tow vehicles from private property for having expired registration stickers. It's all about making money at the expense of the citizens. And just to show you what the real difference is between these two, this is the Texas Transportation Code. The numbering is totally different than what Chief Salvaggio showed. And there's two parts to it that you really have to understand to dissect it. There's definition and applicability. Okay, so the definition of a junk vehicle, without getting into too much detail, means that it's self-propelled and is wrecked, dismantled, partially dismantled, or discarded, or inoperable, and is remained inoperable for more than 72 hours if it's on public property, or 30 days if on private property. Okay, so that's the definition of a junked vehicle. We're talking about inoperable vehicles. We're not talking about vehicles that run, that have expired registration stickers. That is a 2019, your registration expired. Oh, we're going to come take it off your property. That's not what we're talking about. But then what does it apply to? Purpose of the subchapter, junked vehicle, includes a motor vehicle, aircraft, or watercraft. This subchapter applies only to a vehicle, motor vehicle that displays an expired license plate or does not display a license plate. Okay, so why is that? I had to think about it. Well, what if you're on the way home from work one day and somebody rear ends you? Guess what? You now have a wrecked vehicle. So what if your vehicle still drives? Well, you have until the registration expires to get that vehicle fixed. Insurance and everything else takes some time. So it's not that they're just going to come and take your vehicle away as soon as it's wrecked. You need some time to see if you're going to fix it. That's where this expired registration comes in. If you don't get it fixed because you don't have the money, that it's your fault, whatever happens, and you leave it sitting in your driveway or on the street and it's an eyesore and a nuisance, and you let the registration expire because you can't register a wrecked vehicle, then the police have a right to come and tow your vehicle. That's why it has both of these, right? You have to have both. Now let's look at Leon Valley. Okay, keep in mind again, this is A12, AB11, B whatever. Now Leon Valley is 80801. It's 1AB123. Totally different than the numbering that the chief showed on his misleading PowerPoint slides, and he showed them side by side that they're exactly the same. They're not exactly the same. This is the definition of a junked vehicle according to Leon Valley ordinances. A vehicle that is self-propelled and wrecked, dismantled, or partially discarded, dismantled or discarded, or, that's the big difference, or a vehicle that displays an expired license plate or does not display a license plate, or a vehicle that is inoperable and has remained inoperable for more than 24 hours or 20 calendar days. Did you catch the difference? Leon Valley's ordinance includes this as an or. It can be any of these three and they'll classify it as a junk vehicle and come take it off your property. Totally wrong. Totally wrong. It should have been an inclusive and has to have, expired registration and one of these things, not any of the above. So Leon Valley Code of Ordinances is incorrect. And so I made a motion at the June 18th meeting to change it.
Same motion. You want
to revise our ordinance to match closely, more closely with the state ordinance.
The 72 hours and the
to match the state ordinance. Correct. Thank you, Denise.
attempt to match. Okay. All right. Sounds good. So we have a motion and a second. All right, Ms. Pusley, if you'll call the roll call on this one, I think we need to.
Councilor Charles? I like the Leon. I accept the Leon Valley Code of Ordinances as is.
So that's a nay.
Nay.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Nay.
Councilman Alcazar? My reason is nay for what I stated. The state one is next to impossible to enforce.
Yay.
Yeah. Councilman Bradshaw?
Okay, the motion is defeated, 3 nays and 2 yeas.
So as you could see, Councilor Charles, Councilor Rodriguez, and Councilor Alcacer voted to continue towing vehicles. It's about money. It's about what the city staff wants, to be able to fill up the impound lot, to auction off cars. You know, it's really preying on the people who can't afford to get their vehicles out of impound. Those fees add up, you know, very quickly. I think it's $100 once your vehicle's impounded and $20 per day that it's there. So $25 a day, I'm not sure, but the fees add up. And if you don't have the money to go get it out right away, pretty soon you're not going to have enough money, or it's not going to be worth it as much as the vehicle's worth. So this is how they're taking vehicles from citizens. It's really a scam. And on top of that, you know, we went around and around on the legality of this and what it means. And they kept on saying, oh, we're saying the same thing. They wanted me to go to the CPAC, the Citizens Police Advisory Committee, to rewrite the ordinance and just make sure that it's clear. They weren't going to do anything. They're going to do whatever Savagio wants. That's what the CPAC is. It's a sounding board for him. So I sent an email, actually, the city attorney at the time, Denise Frederick, sent an email to Texas Municipal League, and they agreed with me. Councilmember Bradshaw, Ms. Frederick, and I asked that I respond to your question. In order for a vehicle to be a junked vehicle under Texas Transportation Code 683, it must be both legally expired or no plate and mechanically wrecked, dismantled, etc., inoperable. Thank you. That's what I argued. They went round and round and argued against it. They're wrong. And then they came back and told me, well, it depends on what the meaning of or is. It's totally insane. This has to stop. We need new council, new staff that are responsive to the citizens' wants and needs. Thank you for listening.